Okay, we'll formally get started now. Hello, everybody. Welcome to everybody who's with us. And this is my first meditation sitting that I'm doing online. My name is Wendy Kwan, and I'm the founder of the Calm Monkey. I'm in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and I train and certify mindfulness facilitators around the world. And I also help people through change by combining change management with mindfulness. And my previous long-term career was in corporate, in human resources, IT, and change management. And now I'm blessed to be training and certifying facilitators so they can bring mindfulness to the workplace. So I've been running a local in-person sitting group for a number of years now, I think since 2011. But in the light of COVID-19, I felt it was time to go online and to offer this service of mindfulness and meditation to whoever is interested. So I would also like to know that everybody's experience is very, very unique with mindfulness and meditation. And if you ever feel any discomfort or strong emotions that aren't pleasant, I'd like you to know that you can just take a break. You can open your eyes at any time and take a breath and just settle down if you'd like, and then resume the meditation if you'd like. You're welcome to contact me after this by email if you've got any questions that you don't want to ask in front of everybody, or you can hang out until after the session, and I'd be happy to talk to you. So I'm going to talk for a bit to set the stage for our meditations. And specifically, this session is about dealing with fears and worries with COVID-19. So I hope this really helps you. I'm going to be doing two practices, and then I'm going to introduce Karen Anzai to you, who is a certified facilitator with me, and she teaches self-compassion. And she'll be telling you what self-compassion is, and she'll do a practice with you as well. Okay, so let's jump into this right now. With this pandemic that's going on, we're facing something that we've never faced before. And I'm not going to tell you to wash your hands or to do the social distancing because you already know that. This pandemic is so unprecedented. It's full of the unknown. It's scary. So this presents us with a challenge on how we decide we're going to show up through all of this and how we're going to react. But we can only do this if we're self-aware and with raised consciousness. So I'd like to take just a moment here to ask you to have some quiet inner reflection and check in with yourself. How much is COVID-19 impacting your state of being? When you think about how you go about your day and the feelings and emotions that you carry with you because of this pandemic, how much is it affecting you? So I'd like to do a quick poll with you right now so you can weigh in on this question. How much is COVID-19 affecting your state of being with worry or fear? So go ahead and pick one of those options. So a lot of people said often, most people said often or sometimes. And that's quite a bit, right? This is not something we've dealt with before. So it's occupying a lot of our time, our minds. It's affecting our state of being. So we do need to make some conscious effort to become more self-aware so we can learn to deal with this and to calm ourselves down. So I'd like to do a short practice with you right now. And this is all about recognizing emotion in your body. Okay. So we'll do this short practice first, and then we're going to follow it with a longer practice. So for now, because this is quite short, I'd like you to just sit up tall. Hopefully you're sitting in a chair. If when we do the meditations today, I'd like you to sit in a chair if that's possible. If you'd like to lie down, that's fine as well. But sitting in a chair allows you to sit up tall, so it creates space in your front body for better breathing. So you can breathe easier and take those deep breaths. So I'd like you to sit up tall, and if you're comfortable doing so, please close your eyes. If you don't want to close your eyes, that's okay. You can just keep your eyes slightly open and have a soft gaze in front of you. And I'd like you to now think about COVID-19 and bring to mind the typical thoughts you have about it, whatever these thoughts might be. And now I'd like you to see what comes up for you now. Perhaps they're emotions that are strong. And when we have emotions that are strong or repeated, we can start to notice where those emotions show up in our bodies. So, can you notice where in your body you feel these feelings and emotions about this pandemic? And if you haven't done this practice before, it's okay. Just allow yourself to notice if there are any subtle or strong sensations in your body as you have these thoughts. Maybe you feel tightness in your abdomen. Maybe you feel tightness in your chest or in your shoulders. Maybe heat or coolness or tingling in your scalp. And there's no right or wrong. Just notice. And notice how these show up for you. That's unique to you. Sometimes it's even hard to describe these feelings in words, but let's give it a try. See if you can label your emotions, what you're feeling. Maybe it's fear or worry or gratitude or hope. There's a concept of naming it to tame it. Let's say you've experienced worry. You can call this worry, and you can call this emotion out like, I see you. I see you, worry. Okay. I'd like you to take a couple of deep breaths. I'd like you to move your feet and feel the contact of your feet to the floor. And when you're ready, I'd like you to open your eyes and welcome back. So, what did this short exercise do? I think it did a few things, perhaps. It got you into the present moment, right? When you when you tap into and you notice your body sensations, you notice your thoughts and things like that. It brings you into the present moment. And you can ask yourself, like, what am I thinking? What emotions am I having? Rather than being an autopilot. And scanning your body for sensations allows you to see where in your body that might be living. And then name it to tame it lets you call that out. And you can tell it, I see you. So you can say, I see you, fear, or I see you, worry. And you can think of it like a visitor because emotions and feelings are visitors, like visitors. They come and they go. So that's one way to deal with this is to realize that it's an emotion and it's fluid and it comes and goes and things will always change, right? You're not always going to be like that. And I invite you to make sure that you don't think of yourself, say, as a fearful person. Instead, you can say, I have fear in me right now, and that it won't be there forever. So that's the first practice. Now, before we go into the second practice, I'd like to just quickly go over what mindfulness and meditation is because a lot of you here haven't done this before. So I'd like to just spend a moment. So, mindfulness, just briefly, mindfulness is the awareness that emerges through paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non judgmentally to things as they are. So, it's kind of a mouthful, but in other words, it's about being in the now and living in the now, which I'm sure you've heard, and paying attention to the present moment on purpose with intention. It's being fully present to what's happening within you and around you with less judgment. And we can do this in so many ways. We can use our body's senses to anchor ourselves into the present moment, like we just did, or just simply what's most commonly done is just paying attention to your breath, even if it's for one breath or three breaths. There are countless opportunities to be mindful during the day. And how about the hand washing, right? Hand washing is one of those ways you can do that. So, mindfully washing your hands for 20 or more seconds, feeling the soap, feeling the warmth of the water, scrubbing of your hands, drying of your hands. So, why do we want to do this? Why do we want to be mindful? Well, it's because living in the past and ruminating about things that have happened to us in the past, they're not here anymore. It's just a memory. It's not here anymore. So why spend all that time worrying about something in the past or ruminating about the past? When you worry about the future, you're expending energy on something that hasn't even taken place. So functional thought is certainly okay. Future planning, taking precautions, all of those things are good things. But worrying just brings us down and you're missing out on the present moment. So, mindfulness is living in the present moment with less judgment. So, not judging ourselves so much and not judging other people or situations and being mindful during the day. Meditation is generally thought of sitting down to meditate, and there are many kinds of meditation. Mindfulness meditation is a practice that keeps you in the present moment. So there's so much more I could say about that, but I think we'll leave that for another time. And just to go through the 4 attitudes for successful meditation. Now, those of you who have been with me for a while, I know that you know all of these. The 4 attitudes that we can take to make our meditation more successful is first to have no expectations. And this means not having any expectations at all of our practice. When we sit down to meditate, we shouldn't expect anything at all. We shouldn't expect a blank mind, for instance, or to feel a certain way. We let whatever comes up come up, and to have no judgment. So that's not judging our own experience or saying to ourselves, oh, my mind's just so busy. I'm not somebody who could meditate. That's being judgmental about yourself. And if you can breathe, you can meditate, right? If you can just watch your breath, even for a few moments, it's very natural for our minds to wander. We have this human mind and it's going to wander. And it's all about being an observer of what's going on within our own minds, what's going on with our thoughts and our emotions, what's going on within us and around us. So once we start to notice and concentrate and observe our thoughts, we see how very busy our minds are. And that's just a normal thing. So meditation is about noticing when our mind has wandered, and when it has, you gently bring it back to the focus, the object of the meditation that you're doing. And having a beginner's mind is all about coming to each meditation with a freshness, as if you have never done it before, and allowing whatever comes up to come up, because it's not about recreating a past experience. So maybe yesterday you would have had a wonderful meditation. Not every meditation is going to be like that. So that's what a beginner's mind means. So the job that you have in meditation is simply to focus on the object of the meditation, and that might be your breath, it might be something else. And when your mind wanders, because it will, you gently bring the focus back to the meditation. It's as simple as that. And don't feel bad when your mind wanders. In fact, that's the exercise of meditation, is noticing when it wanders, so you can refocus and not expecting a blank or calm mind, and having this feeling of allowing, just allowing whatever happens to happen, rather than trying too hard to meditate. So what we're going to do now is go into the second meditation, which is a bit longer than the first one. And I put up this lovely photo from my brother-in-law, and I wanted something very beautiful and simple for you to look at if you choose not to close your eyes. So this second practice is about letting go of assumptions. And I've adapted this from a friend of mine. His name is Mark Lesser. He's an author, and he was the CEO of Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute. So this is about letting go of assumptions and letting go of things that you want to let go of. And those could be emotions, fears. It's got two parts of the meditation. The first part is where we start to practice about letting go of the most simplest assumption we have, and that is your next breath. So letting go of the assumption that the next breath is coming. And then once we get the hang of that, we go into the practice of letting go things that you carry with you. And that's going to be yours to decide what you work on, whether it's worry, anxiety, or fear, anything it might be. Okay, so you will choose what you will work on. So to get started, I would like to ask you to get into a good meditation posture. So if you're sitting in a chair, you can lie down as well. But as I said, if you can sit, that is better, because you can sit up tall so you have space in your front body for your breath. So sitting up tall, signaling your body that it is time to have this practice. Sitting up tall and a little bit more differently than you normally sit in that chair. I'd like you to have your feet flat on the floor. And I'd like you to lift up your shoulders towards your ears and then back, and then relax your shoulders and do that again. Bring your shoulders up to your ears. Pull them back and then relax. Totally relax those shoulders. That's where we carry a lot of our tension, right? I'd like you to gently close your eyes if you feel comfortable or have that soft gaze in front of you. Your mouth is closed and you're breathing through your nose. You can rest your hands gently on your lap and perhaps have your palms face down on your lap. So let's start by bringing attention to the body, mindfully choosing how you've placed your hands, how you've placed your feet on the floor, making conscious choices of even the smallest movements of your body. Relaxing your shoulders. And in meditation, we want to relax the body, but keep our minds very alert. So find a way to be relaxed and alert at the same time. And now bringing attention to the breath. Noticing your breathing, your natural breath, without changing anything at all. Just have a natural breath. And notice how your body moves when you breathe. Perhaps notice your chest moving. Maybe your abdomen moves. And noticing each inhale and exhale, and the tiny pauses in between each inhalation and exhalation. Spend a moment noticing these tiny pauses. Finding that beauty in the simplest breath. Now deepen your breath and silently count to 3 as you breathe in, and count to 5 as you breathe out. Allowing each exhalation to be a little longer than the inhalation. Allowing each exhale to be a full exhale until all the air is out of your lungs, but in a gentle and relaxed manner. Counting to 3 on the inhalation counting to 5 on the exhalation, nice and relaxed. And now, as much as possible, letting go of everything on that exhale, letting go of every assumption of what might happen. Even letting go that there will be a next inhale. So, even letting go of the assumption that there'll be another inhalation, being surprised when the next inhale arrives. Imagine being surprised and saying, "Oh, here I am. I'm alive." And on the exhalation, letting go. And now expanding your practice of letting go. Think about what you can let go. Any thoughts of fear or worry you might have. Breathing in, breathing out. A full, relaxed exhale. Breathing out that fear or worry or whatever you'd like to work on. It's just a thought and only a thought. And letting go of assumptions that this thought normally brings. Letting go of those thoughts and feelings. And exploring and experimenting with this practice for the next few moments of quiet time. This is meditation practice, the wonder of human life, and keeping it simple, seeing our own human life, our human experience, moment to moment. So now return your breath to a natural breath and stay here for a moment. So let's practice a bit of gratitude for this practice. Feel what gratitude feels like in your body. Feel the gratitude of being here and being able to do this and getting in touch with your human experience. Where do you feel gratitude in your body? How does that feel? Gratitude in your body. And does it feel different than the other feelings that you noticed before? And now to bring this meditation to a close, I'd like you to bring some subtle movements back into your body, moving your body, wiggling your fingers, adjusting your body in the chair. And again, feeling that contact with the floor. Moving your feet and bringing your awareness back into your surroundings, back into the room, and back to this community of practice. And I'd like you to open your eyes when you're ready. And we are back. Nice. So I hope that helped. And it's something you can do anytime. You don't have to necessarily sit and do like a 20-minute meditation. I think that was about 20 minutes, by the way. So, Haiti, definitely this has brought me right down to a nice state of mind, peaceful, letting go. Yeah. So, anytime, right? Just check in with yourself. You don't have to necessarily sit in a meditation. You just pause and check in with yourself. Breathe. It's all about the breath. It's all about the breath. Just on the exhalation, breathing out those thoughts, just knowing that they're just thoughts. That's all they are. Okay, so before I bring Karen on to talk to you about self compassion, I wanted to share a couple of perspectives that I've had about COVID-19. I'm sure this has crossed your mind. Why is this happening? What is the reason for this? And what are we meant to learn from this? They're pretty big questions, aren't they? Well, I've got a few thoughts to share with you, and I'd welcome for you to share your thoughts as well. At a macro level, the world is deeply in need of change. Even before all this came about, we've gotten ourselves into such a terrible state in many different ways. And I think for serious change to happen, Sometimes the hurt and the suffering and the discomfort has to be there and has to be, unfortunately, severe enough to mobilize us for change. Then something comes along that disrupts everything, so people pay attention. It's really easy for us to think that, oh, it's not us, it's other people that need to change. But truly, we all have an ego, me too. And that ego gets in the way sometimes and makes us judgmental and feel righteous. So, what are the learnings? My hope is that people are going to realize we're all connected. Now, we've said that before, we've heard that we're all connected. But what does this mean? And it means that our actions matter, how we think, how we behave, how we show up in the world, how we interact with each other, how we interact with people we don't know. So perhaps instead of segregation, we need to work together. And I'm hoping that the result of this is going to shift the needle in some way, that maybe we'll be a bit kinder and more thoughtful and more appreciative of life and maybe slow down. This whole thing about we're so busy, we're so busy. I say that a lot myself as well. But why don't we just slow down and enjoy the present moment and enjoy life? So by raising our self-awareness, it allows us to check in with ourselves and pause for even a few seconds here and there before we act and before we speak. Okay, thanks very much. I am going to move on now and introduce you to Karen Anzai. So Karen is a certified facilitator with the Calm Monkey, and she works in healthcare at a rehabilitation hospital called GF Strong here in Vancouver. She's a long-term meditator of 25 years and has recently been trained to teach mindful self-compassion. And I admire Karen so much for her great work, all her great work that she does and her deep compassion for people. So I asked her to talk to you today about what self-compassion is and then lead a practice. Okay, so Karen, please go ahead and unmute. And
Hello. Can you hear
hello.
me?
It's a little bit quiet. I don't
Is
know
it
if you can
quiet?
speak up a little bit.
Okay, I was noticing you had a headset and I thought, oh shoot, I should have.
No, it's okay. It's fine.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
okay, is that
yeah,
good?
yeah. Please go
Okay.
ahead. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Wendy, and good evening, everyone. I'm really grateful for this opportunity to speak about a topic that's both near and dear to my heart, as well as incredibly timely given the circumstances that we're all currently find ourselves in. And I'm going to first spend a few minutes talking a bit about what self-compassion is and how it works, and then we'll share a practice together. So I'm trained to teach the 8-week mindful self-compassion course, which is based on the MBSR and MBCT models that some of you may be aware of. And in the 8 weeks, we teach a variety of practices that cultivate our inner resource of self-compassion. And I'll just be sharing a little tiny bit of that with you tonight. So self-compassion is essentially compassion turned towards oneself, or inner compassion. And a working definition of compassion is the feeling that arises when witnessing suffering, either in ourselves or in others, combined with a desire to alleviate that suffering. So there's an action element to compassion, a wish to help or to do something to ease the suffering. And it's a resource that we all possess, but here in the West, we typically don't access it. We actually often do the reverse, which is to beat up on ourselves. So self-compassion is treating ourselves with the same kindness, friendliness, and tenderness that we would treat a friend or a loved one. And research has shown that the majority of us are kinder to others than we are to ourselves. So self-compassion encourages us to ask ourselves, how would I treat a friend? And there's also very compelling research showing that self-compassion is strongly linked to well-being. It increases our resilience. It's a facilitator of mental health as it decreases depression and anxiety. It has also been shown to enhance the immune system, which we really could all benefit from right now. So with the practice of self-compassion, we become an inner ally instead of an inner enemy, and we begin to tame the inner critic, the self-judgment, and often the self-deprecating narratives that run through our minds. And Dr. Kirsten Neff, who is one of the co-creators of the Mindful Self-Compassion program, describes self-compassion as having three components. So the first is mindfulness. So as we know, mindfulness allows us to recognize our present moment experience so that we know if we are struggling. It encourages us to turn towards painful feelings and be with them as they are, as best we can. The second component is common humanity, as Wendy already touched on. And with self-compassion, we see our experience of imperfection as part of the larger human experience. We recognize that everyone has struggles and suffers in some way. We are not alone. There are certainly variations in the degrees of suffering, what I sometimes call small s suffering versus big S suffering, but we all have our share of difficulties and challenges. And I think right now we can all relate to this feeling of common humanity, as this virus seems to have the potential to affect almost everyone on the planet. The third component is self-kindness. So as compassion involves doing something to alleviate the experience of suffering, there's also an action element to self-compassion. It involves actively soothing and comforting ourselves when we're struggling and asking ourselves a core question of what do I need? Compassion asks, what can I do to help? And the practice of self-compassion deactivates the threat response system of our limbic system and down-regulates the activity in the amygdala, which is responsible for releasing harmful neurotransmitters like cortisol and adrenaline. And it does this by accessing our mammalian caregiving system by releasing beneficial neurotransmitters like oxytocin and opiates. A little self-compassion break there to deal with my dry mouth. So when we give ourselves self-compassion, we reduce cortisol levels and release oxytocin, which is a feel-good hormone. For many of us right now, our threat defense systems are being kicked into high gear, and practicing self-compassion can really be an antidote to this response. Practicing self-compassion can be thought of as applying a soothing balm or salve to the pain and the suffering in our lives. And there are numerous ways that we can cultivate self-compassion, and the practice that I'm going to share with you now is known as the self-compassion break. So the self-compassion break is an informal practice that can be applied really easily in any stressful situation. But I'm going to teach it formally today to unpack all the elements. But with practice, we can easily apply it quickly in everyday life. So as I mentioned, the neurophysiological basis for self-compassion is that it accesses the mammalian caregiving system that releases oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin. And it does this in two ways: by language, so that's the way we talk to ourselves, the words and the tone that we use when we talk to ourselves, and also by touch. So before we move on to the practice, I'm going to lead us through a short exercise of finding a soothing touch that we can find genuinely comforting. Now, for some people, this can feel a bit awkward at first, but I encourage you to try to connect with your inner experience as we go through these, really trying to settle your awareness on feeling the warmth and the gentle touch of your hands. So the first one, and I hope everybody can see me. So this, in self-compassion practice, this is sort of the quintessential self-compassion gesture. So I encourage you to start by just putting one hand over your heart and apply some firm pressure, and just spend a moment connecting with the sensation of the warmth and the gentle touch of your hand on your heart. They say it can take about 30 seconds or so before you start kind of settling and releasing and feeling that warmth, that contact. You can also try putting 2 hands over your heart. Maybe taking a deep breath and just really settling how that feels. And then the next one is you make a fist with your hand and you put your fist over your heart, and then you use your other hand to cup over your fist. And this is known as the yang of compassion. Sometimes when we're really overwhelmed, we need something strong. And so actually cupping a hand and applying that pressure can really feel like, oh yeah, that's some stronger compassion. And then you can try putting one hand on your cheek, or even cradling your face in both of your hands. Just taking a minute to feel that sensation, the coolness of your hands against your cheeks. Sometimes we know when we're really overwhelmed in that, oh my gosh, it's a gesture of care and concern. The next one is I'm going to raise my arm up. Sometimes just gently stroking your arm can feel quite soothing, quite calming. Or gently rubbing your chest, small circles or back and forth. Or even cupping your hands. So when they're in your lap, of course I'm holding mine up, but cupping your hands or holding one hand over the other. And I know for myself, when I'm in a stressful situation, say I'm in a work meeting or I'm engaged in a conversation with somebody that might be a bit stressful or conflictual, I use this quite a lot. It's like I'm holding my own hand. I'm there for myself. So as part of the practice we're going to do in a minute, I'm going to invite you to use one of these gestures. So hopefully you found one that resonates at least a little bit. And so now I'm going to guide you in more of a formal practice. So we want to start once again by settling into that meditation position that Wendy helped guide us through. Remembering that you're trying to find a position that's that combination of relaxed and comfortable, but also awake and alert. And closing your eyes if that feels comfortable for you. And just start by taking a couple of nice, nourishing breaths. Nice, deep breaths, and on the exhale, try to release any gripping or tightness or tension. Letting go as much as you can and letting your breath return to its normal rhythm. And inviting in calm and stillness to whatever degree you can right now. And taking a moment to connect to your body, bringing your awareness to the sensations in your face, softening between the eyebrows, releasing any tension you might notice in your jaw, letting your shoulders drop away from your ears, softening any tightness in your neck muscles. Continuing to gently scan down through your body and softening up the belly, relaxing your hands, noticing your seat against the chair and your feet against the floor, and expanding your awareness to a sense of your whole body here, present and alive. And now turn your awareness to the sensations of your breath. resting your attention wherever it settles most easily. Either the flow of air at the tip of the nose, the rise and fall of your chest or your belly. Just giving yourself these few moments to steady your awareness on the sensations of the breath or the body. Every time you notice your mind has wandered, gently bring it back. And now let your awareness of the breath and the body just fall into the background. And I invite you to now bring to mind a situation in your life that is difficult. It is causing you stress, such as a health problem, a relationship problem, or a work problem. Or perhaps you're feeling somewhat anxious or confused or disheartened by the virus. Allow yourself to see, hear, and feel your way into the problem that you've brought to mind, to the extent that you experience some uneasiness in your body. Where do you feel it the most? Try to make contact with the discomfort that you feel. Then say to yourself, this is a moment of suffering. That's mindfulness. Can you validate for yourself how you think or feel in a kind and understanding manner? For example, saying to yourself, yes, this is hard. This is difficult. This is really stressful. Now try saying to yourself, suffering is a part of living. That's common humanity. Other options include saying, we all struggle in our lives. Other people feel this way. And when you hear news of people struggling with the virus, can you allow this to enhance your sense of being part of a global family rather than feeling separate? Or when you reflect on your own distress, can you remind yourself, others feel as I do. I am not alone. Sickness is part of living. This is how it feels to be a human being right now. Everyone is being affected by this novel virus. And now, offer yourself the gesture of soothing touch, like putting a hand over your heart or wherever it feels comforting. Feeling the warmth and gentle touch of your hands. And say to yourself, may I be kind to myself. That's self-kindness. Other options might be, may I give myself what I need. May I be strong. May I be safe. May I protect myself? What words do you need to hear to comfort or reassure yourself about the virus right now? Can you talk to yourself in a warm and compassionate voice? And if you're having difficulty finding the right words, imagine that a dear friend or loved one is having the same problem as you. What would you say to this person, heart to heart? If your friend were to hold just a few of your words in their mind, what would you like them to be? What message would you like to deliver? Now, can you offer the same message to yourself? Really try to let this message land for you and let it into your heart. And when you are ready, gently release the practice and slowly open your eyes. So thank you everyone for participating in that practice. So I'm not sure in this type of forum how comfortable people are in sharing how that experience was for them, but one thing I would really encourage you all to reflect on is whether you noticed a difference between offering yourself kind and supportive words versus offering them to a friend. So I'm just curious, anybody wants to share or put it in the chat, if they really sensed a difference in how they were able to offer others care and concern versus themselves, because it really can be quite illuminating regarding how hard it is to treat ourselves the same way that we treat others that we care about. And it really takes practice to cultivate this new way of responding to ourselves and to our experience.
Thank you, Karen. That was beautiful. You described it really well. And for me, that's what I found is what you just said. Actually, is um, speaking that way to myself felt a little strange. It's
Yeah.
the way I talk to other people, but yeah, it's not comfortable at first because
Mm-hmm.
we're so focused on other people usually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a good challenge, actually.
And that's very common, and it can take quite a while to actually say to ourselves, hey, I'm worthy of this too, right?
Hmm.
And so that, as I mentioned, that was done quite formally, but the beauty of that practice is that it can be really applied at any time that you notice you're feeling anxious, overwhelmed, because that's what our practice of mindfulness gives us. And you can just say to yourself, wow, this is hard. That's the mindfulness piece, right? This is hard. And then the common humanity piece is we're all in this together.
Hmm.
And then the third step, can I be kind to myself? Can I give myself what I need? And remember that this can be a combination of the soothing gestures, the calm breathing, but other behavioral self-compassion activities that we really need to think about as we go through these days and weeks and months ahead of behavioral self-compassion, talking to friends, having a warm cup of tea, or doing what Rick Hansen, some of you might know his work of taking in the good, which is, you know, really overcoming our negativity bias and looking for things like here in Vancouver, we have the emergence of the cherry blossoms and it's spring. And so just really being kind to yourself with those small acts of self-compassion and generosity, essentially.
So I want to leave you with a few thoughts just to kind of recap what we've done today. The first practice was recognizing emotions in your body, and that can just take a few moments anytime during the day. Pausing and where do you feel the emotion in your body? Name it to tame it. And then the second thing we did was the letting go. The breathing in for 3, breathing out for 5, letting go of assumptions, letting go of fears, and anything you want to let go of. And then also, you know, the mindfulness piece is any time during the day, just taking those opportunities to take breaths, just breathe. I am absolutely finding that with what's going on these days, I'm not breathing very much at all. And my breathing is so shallow and I'm catching myself lots and lots throughout the day. And, you know, I just take deeper breaths and it feels so good. It gets you centered, it gets you grounded. And deep breaths, breathing out, helps to remove toxins from the body as well. And you may know that when you breathe rhythmically, deeper breaths and rhythmically, it invokes the parasympathetic system in you to relax you. Just take those moments every time you sit down to check your email, or every time you pick up your phone, every time you pour a glass of water. Find those triggers yourself that work for you to just be present, to take those deep breaths, okay? And of course, all of which Karen showed us about self-compassion, how to speak to yourself in a compassionate way, and all those lovely practices of touch, practicing that as well. So mindfulness and meditation, you know, it is wonderful to attend sessions like this, but the practice is really what's teaching you. So think of the practice as your teacher. You don't get the benefits until you do it, unless you're doing this. So I invite you to make this part of your lives, whether small or big, mindfulness, seated meditation, whatever it is. I would love for you to see this as something you're volunteering for. If you think about it as something you're volunteering to do, you're putting up your hand. You're the one leaning into it. You're the one that wants to do this, not because you should or somebody is telling you to do it. Okay? So I invite you to have that attitude of volunteering to do this.
Wendy, I just want to say thank you. I am on the East Coast and it's late, but this is so worth it. I'd rather go to bed from this than from anything else. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, Paula. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. So I invite you to volunteer to practice these in your lives. And I will be sending out an email to wrap everything up here. And at this point in time, I invite you to unmute and wish everybody well as we say goodbye.
Be well and healthy,
everybody.
May you be well and
Be
safe.
well.
everyone.
Be safe.
Lovely
Thank
practicing
you.
together.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Wendy.
Thanks,
Thank
Wendy.
You're welcome. Have a good sleep, everybody.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Wendy, so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Wendy.
Bye-bye. If anybody wants to hang out after, I'll stay on for a few moments.